Hello, hello. Welcome July 9, 2018 for Greet the Week.
Hello,
And
everybody.
this week's topic, Miss Jan is going to take us there. So what are we doing today, Jan?
We are talking about self-fulfilling prophecies and how our thoughts affect what happens to us. I'm sure you've all heard that term, self-fulfilling prophecy, and normally we use it in a negative connotation. And when we think something is going to go wrong, then inevitably it does. And, we say, well, of course it went wrong because you thought,
I knew it would.
I knew it would. And we had these negative thoughts going on. But it also goes in the positive direction. When we think positive thoughts about things, then a lot of times the positive things come through. So just to understand how powerful our thoughts really are, and it kind of guides our perception and our filters and our thinking, so that we're only allowing whatever it is we're thinking that supports what we're thinking to come into our brain. And the other stuff we kind of ignore and let it bounce off because it's not agreeing with what we had in mind. So let's think of the positive things, and that things are going to go well and move forward that way.
Yeah, because our thoughts, everything is created twice. First in the mind and then in reality.
Yeah.
And whenever we create it in reality, because our body is a system and the whole body talks to itself.
It does.
And so the thoughts that we are thinking, our system begins to prepare itself to bring those thoughts into reality. And again, this is just right here in the middle of the ground, right here in the neutral territory. And whether we take those thoughts to the positive or to the negative, to the, it's not going to be so good, or maybe it'll turn out better than I thought.
Yeah.
We have this chemistry in our body, or we have this chemistry lab in our body. And so it will begin to put out whatever it is we need.
Yeah. So why not have it work in your favor?
Right. And not only in thinking, but then get to the point where we can actually use the words to just speak it into existence.
Yeah.
In the one of the later books of Dr. Glasser, where it was words of wisdom or something, that the thoughtful wisdom that someone had written in and didn't know what to do about their child. Mm-hmm. And Dr. Glasser answered and said, whatever you do, set him up to succeed.
Right.
And not only thinking that ourselves, but then literally putting it out there. I'm going to set you up to succeed.
Yeah. I mean, especially for children, there was a very famous study called the Rosenthal study that where they had these kindergarten students and they tested them. And so they knew what their intelligence was, but they randomly assigned the kids to different classes. One was just a class where they told the teacher that these were average students. And then one was a class where we told the teacher they were gifted students. But they weren't all gifted. There was a mix. And so the teachers actually believed that these were gifted students, and they gave them more support and more help and more encouragement. And these kids just excelled so well. And it really shows how much that whole positive attitude and having great expectations, high expectations, expect that they can learn it. Don't give them the thought that, you're too stupid to learn anything.
Right.
You're not old enough to do this. You can't do this now.
Right. Yeah, just that projection into them, that self-fulfilling prophecy for them.
Right.
And I was reading.
Okay.
Go ahead.
And I remember when my daughter was in second grade, she was dyslexic, and we didn't diagnose her until she was in second grade. But they had what was called these challenge words, for spelling. They had the regular words and they had the longer words. And poor thing, she tried to do the challenge words, even though we didn't study them. When I was working with her, we only studied the regular words, but the teacher gave those in class, so she tried them. So one day the teacher sent a note home, sent a note on my daughter's paper telling her not to do the challenge words, that they were too hard for her. And I sent a note back to her teacher and I said, I do not want to discourage my child at all. If she wants to try the challenge words, I want her to try the challenge words. And so then after that, she and I worked on those challenge words. And then after that, she was getting more of them correct. But I was just so upset at the teacher. It's like, why would you ever tell a child that they're not smart enough to do something?
Exactly. Or that you're doing a good enough job when you can do better.
Right. Yeah.
I had that experience once. I had a teacher. I homeschooled Melinda from 3rd grade on. I didn't know I couldn't in 1 or 2, or I would have, because she had learned to read. I taught her how to read and didn't even know what I was doing. But anyway, so she had this little nature notebook. They were in 3rd grade. She had this little nature notebook, and her teacher gave her a really good grade. Mm-hmm. And I looked at that thing, and I mean, it was not up to her quality of work.
Okay.
And so I talked to the teacher. I said, I can't believe you gave her an A on this, an A plus even. And the teacher said, well, it was as good as the rest or better than the rest.
Yeah.
And I said, that's sending the wrong message.
Yeah. No, exactly. Well, it's kind of interesting. My son was older than my daughter, and he caught on real fast. He learned to read and all this kind of thing. And then my daughter, not so much because of her learning disability, which she did overcome and graduate from college, all this kind of stuff. But when the report cards were coming in, they got the same grades, as I was following them through. And I looked and I said, well, my daughter's work is not anywhere near as good as my son's work. And so I got a survey from the school, and they probably were surprised that somebody would tell them that they were grading their daughter too easily.
Exactly.
That I saw a magnitude of difference between the work, but yet they're getting the same grade. What are we telling our kids? And it goes back to what you're saying about setting the bar, and it's for each child what their capabilities are, to take the time and effort to know what each child is capable of. So those that are not as smart and don't write as well, to make sure you're giving them encouragement so they don't give up. But yet those who can do better, give them that little nudge so they do better.
Exactly. See in them, again, it's that positive prophecy. See in them something that they are capable of, or that you see them as being capable of, and then let's just test it and see. So during that whole thing, I kind of go back and contributed to that I began to learn myself that instead of saying, well, you can do better than this, or this is, it was to just continually ask the question, did you do your best?
Okay. Yeah.
And if you did your best and it has not met the standard that's required for, if you're this tall, you can ride the ride. If you're not this tall, you can't ride the ride. And what can you not do if you're not this tall? Well, maybe you can grow into it. If not, it's not a big deal, But did you do your best? And if you did your best, I wanted to look at the fact that maybe was I not teaching well enough for it to get across, because I also worked with students while I was not only homeschooling her, but I did tutoring for other kids, that were having trouble in school to help them overcome their. And it's, are you doing your best? And if not, let's see what that discrepancy is.
Right.
And that's in anything, even in, making up the bed, and it was kind of still askew. It had lumps in it, and the bedspread was all draggy on the floor, and it's, did you do your best?
Yeah.
Well, if you did your best, and then, as they begin to grow, it's giving a little bit of encouragement, and it's when you are tall enough, when you are old enough, you'll be able to pull that bedspread all the way up where it won't drag on the floor. Mm-hmm. And it's projecting into them, the fact that a little bit of growth, and you'll be able to ride the bicycle. You're going to be able to ride the ride.
Yeah. And you may surprise me and do it before you get that old, or before you get that old. And those are the things that you want to see. You want to set people up for success, and yourself up for success too, instead of putting yourself down and saying, I didn't do a good job on that, or I didn't get the response that I wanted. It's like, okay, let's not blame the other people for not responding the way you'd like. What could you do? But like you said, did you do your best?
Right, and self-evaluate.
Yeah.
Self-evaluate. And if I did do my best, what is it I need to learn? What more information do I need?
Yeah.
Or what more motivation do I need? I was reading an article here as we were thinking. I stumbled over here to look for it, and because it made me think about it. It's from the Acton Institute, and it was by Steve Stapleton, and the article is entitled, "Can Economics Bring Back Humility and Civil Disorder?" Well, how does that have to do with what we have to think about, you know? Anyway, he gives the example in here of an employer encouraging employees to sign up for a 401k, so that, you know, looking for the future, and that you will have something to retire on. And that more and more employers are beginning to automatically sign them up for a 401k and take out, you know, what is needed for it to
a minimum amount.
After a period of time, and I don't know exactly what the period of time is, but after a period of time, they let them know that this is not mandatory. They can either cut down on it or they can even opt out of it. And the point is that once they begin to see, you know what, I'm not really missing that money because there's a 401k and it's planning for my future. And it just begins to bring back that, yeah, I can do it.
Well, I think another I've heard about that before. And another thing that it does is sometimes it's that initial inertia to sign up for
exactly
in the first place. You know, maybe you know it's a good thing and you've heard it's a good thing. It's like, well, I'm moving into a new apartment. I'm gonna have to buy furniture and I have to do this. So you keep putting it off and putting it off and putting it off. Whereas instead of saying, okay, from the very beginning, I'm just gonna do it. And it's just hard to make that first step. But if their employer makes that first step for them, they end up saving so much more money. And you don't even know it's gone if you never started getting it. You miss it. For a lot of people, if the money's there, you're going to spend it, right?
That initial inertia, and then it gets, you know, labeled with someday I'll.
Someday I'll.
And that island is just way out there, and we never sail to it.
So let's make that someday today.
It's begin to looking at because things. Positivity. I was just thinking this morning back on an incident where we were going down the highway. We were just traveling, and there was a car in front of us, and the window rolled down, and someone put their hand out the window, and they had a little kitty, and they just dropped it. Oh, I know. And I'm, you know, the poor little kitty. I mean, it. You know, how cruel.
And for them to do that when somebody was behind them.
Oh, yeah. I mean, it was out on the highway and and anyway, my heart instantly went out for the kitty. But you know what? The more I got to thinking about it, my heart went out for the child. Because cruelty does not arise out of a vacuum. And neither does kindness and civility and taking on challenges. It doesn't arise out of a vacuum.
Something has to motivate the person.
Something has to be something there that speaks to it, that gives us I can do that. And so as we have these thoughts, first of all, evaluate them. You know, is it a staying in the rut thought, or is it one that can elevate me and get me out of the rut? And then begin to take steps for it, come up with something. Maybe look back and see sometime I have done something that it was out of the box and it really went well. If we can have something that we can think back on, well, maybe I could do it again.
Where we were successful.
Right.
Find a time when I was able to do that.
Right. And then, if nothing else, go to the brain science that's coming up today. How that as we change those thoughts, we change those neural pathways. That again, with our body being a system, it affects everything in the body. To change it and to bring it into balance. So when you were talking about the that I thought maybe you were talking about the marshmallow when you first started off.
Well, that one too. That one too. Yeah. Well, this is a little different one. This is it's called the Rosenthal study, where the teachers were told the students were good, or were talented.
Yeah.
And then I had another example from my personal life, and it was back when I was a quality manager. Our division vice president was a real tyrant, and I mean there's really no other way to describe him. Very much into external control, and he had us do these 360 evaluations where everybody in the group evaluated him on leadership, different leadership attributes. And since I was the quality manager, I was the one who had to report the results to the rest of the group. And the first one we did was our vice president, and it was a little bit nerve-wracking because he was very aggressive and did not take kindly to bad news and stuff. But I was prepared and I was confident because it's just the data. I was just giving the information, right? I wasn't
right, exactly.
My opinion, and so I was feeling good about it. But I could sense in the room this feeling of unease, that people really didn't want to be there and didn't want to hear this, that it was, the territory that they really didn't want to go to. And so, but we made it through it fine. It was good. But then one of the guys later came up to me afterwards and said, "Boy, I could tell you were really, you really didn't want to give this information, or you were really nervous about this information." I said, "Well, no, not really. I was just reporting what I saw." But it's like their thoughts. Of course, you can say that my thoughts were that way too, but their thoughts were such that they were uneasy, that they felt that he was projecting it on me as well.
Exactly.
And I was also feeling uneasy, and that's what we do when we think about certain things. We do project it onto other people because we're looking for validation that whatever we're thinking about is true and is real.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm, mm-hmm. And kind of in that same line, I had someone say something the other day about something that you don't know how what you do affects others.
Mm-hmm.
And I think, well, you're right. We don't, except as we begin to monitor and listen to the feedback we get from others.
Yeah.
Because that's all we can do is receive the information that others are giving. Not only can we give information, but they are giving it also.
Right. And we have to interpret it as just information.
As we look at, and interpret it, but try to be lovingly observe without being judgmental.
Mm-hmm.
Lovingly observe. And then look in that mirror. Oh, am I projecting fear? Then how can I begin to work to project caution as opposed to fear? Or how can I, am I projecting leniency? And how can I begin to look at options as opposed to just permission?
Yeah. And that's what goes back with you doing that self-evaluation and going back, especially if you're getting the feeling that it didn't go quite as well as you thought it might have, is to reflect back and think about, okay, what did I say? What was I feeling? What was I portraying when I said that? Right.
And in self-evaluating yourself, use the caring habits on yourself.
Mm-hmm.
And so if there's, this little thing that, oh, no, I don't like the way I did this, I don't like the way I did that, and get real critical, which does really little to no good. Look at it and get honest with yourself. That is the way I am projecting, blah, blah, blah. That is what I did. That was my tone of voice. And ask yourself, what request am I making of me? Because as we begin to realize the fact that I was asking me to be confident but compassionate,
mm-hmm.
then how can I bring that in, how can I bring that in as opposed to being fearful yet needing to get the information out?
Yeah, what could I do differently the next time?
Right.
Because when you think about it in your mind, when you actually go through the motions of saying, what could I have done differently, even though you're not actually doing it, thinking about it helps to set those neural pathways.
It does.
Yeah.
Right. It's a preview.
Yeah.
We begin to setting up previews, right? Have your own little mind movie
Yeah.
that you make out.
And those are the kinds of things that then you're setting up what is your automatic go-to, that then you do go to those actions instead of what you were doing, by thinking about it and going over it in your head, so that becomes your new normal. That becomes the way that you respond to things.
Right. That new normal, or the collective unconscious. What is that collective unconscious? It is that something that is innate with every human being that ever has. It's that collective unconscious. I think Carl Jung was the one that termed that because we're more alike than we're different. And so then Dr. Glasser came along, and he talked about total behavior.
Mm-hmm.
And that our total behavior, of course, is the thoughts we think, the actions we take, the feelings, meaning our emotional feelings as well as our physiology feeling. Mm-hmm. Those four things is the wheels on our car. And that collective unconscious, what's the dimensions of it? It is our body, our mind, our thinking, and our interbeing. And I just see that as going hand in hand with the total behavior.
It does. Absolutely, it does.
And the collective unconscious. It's everything that is in keeping with the humanity of all of us.
Yeah, I mean, we need to really be aware of what our thoughts are and how they are contributing to the things that we do, the way we treat people, the way we conduct our lives. And are those thoughts helping us, or are they hurting us?
Right.
And so many times if we have negative thoughts about things, it does then steer us in the direction where we're going to do things that aren't so good for us or other people.
Yeah. And so it's to be aware of our thoughts, because once we become aware, we're more aware.
Mm-hmm.
And it just expands our awareness, just like our universe is expanding.
Yeah.
And so just to think about what we think about.
Right.
Think about what you think about, and think about, well, how could I see something differently? Or what have I never seen before? What have I never thought about before?
Yeah.
In one of Dr. Seuss's The Grinch That Stole Christmas, it said he had a thought he hadn't thought before.
Imagine that. We have how many tens of thousands of thoughts every day? It's just amazing.
So it's giving ourselves permission to have another thought.
Right.
And what else could I think about it? But again, wanting it to be going toward the problem solving and toward the more positive than the contributing to the problem, the negative
way. We spend a lot of time thinking, but we're thinking down that negative path. And I'm so stupid, or I should have done something differently. And it's like, stop that. Where is that getting you? How is that helping me? Okay, but it is what it is, Mona.
Yes, it is what it is.
And so let's stop here and take your little pause. See, I'm learning a lot too. And then go, what can I do differently? How can I make it better the next time? I can't change what happened in the past, but I can change how it happened, what happens later on. So let me work on that and see what I can do.
And we can rewrite the story. We can rewrite the story, at least in our own. Knowing what I know now, what would you tell your younger self? What would you tell your younger Jan?
Right.
Yeah. So go back and rewrite that story. I know you were afraid of lightning. I know this was you, that bully really, really bullied you, and but you're going to grow out of that. You're going to be okay. And rewrite the story that the next time someone tries to bully you, how will you behave?
Right.
What will you think about? How will you do it?
Yeah. And you change your mind about the person who's bullying you.
Exactly.
This person is probably being hurt in other ways that I don't know about. Exactly.
Like all of my compassion going to the kitty that was dropped out the window.
Right, exactly. And go to the little kid
and then it went to the child. It went to the parent. It went to the, that could have, just the compassion for that human being.
Yeah.
And
that does totally change your mindset once you can take the focus off of what you're hurting about into wow, that person must really have had a bad day or must be having a terrible life. And
Lovingly observe without judging. Because we just don't know what all's been going on.
no, we don't.
But we can observe the fact that dropping a kitty out the window is not a good thing to continue doing.
No.
So it's lovingly observing without passing judgment on as to the why and the wherefore and all that. And so how do we start all this stuff? Well, we take baby steps.
We do. It's all about taking baby steps. We want a silver bullet that's going to fix things right away, but that's just not the way life works. And we have to accept that it's going to take time, it's going to take discipline, it's going to take perseverance in order to get it done. And just to stay confident in ourselves and maybe have a partner to work with to kind of give you a little bit of support, because it's hard sometimes to do it all on your own when you have to pick yourself up when you're down. It's kind of nice to have somebody else to be looking at it from the outside, because we can't always be objective, to tell us, hey, aren't you carrying this a little too far? Remember where you came from. Remember, how much progress you have made.
Right. So I was just thinking on the little bitty baby steps, which just kind of what you're already saying is be aware of the fact that I'm wanting to think new thoughts. Mm-hmm. And that thoughts do become things.
They do.
And to begin to looking at that, and then to look at that. So how can I incorporate that into my life in an everyday thing, that I'm thinking those positive thoughts, even if I'm not in a positive mood at the moment? And so let's go with the ubiquitous passwords. Make that password something that is a prophecy to fulfill.
Okay. Yeah. I did that one time with I had a weight goal that I wanted to lose so much weight, and then and it was I made it Slim Jim, and I put my weight goal on there, and that was my password for a while.
Right. I do that all the time.
Do you really? That's interesting.
Great scene, 2018.
Yeah.
Of course, I'm not going to tell you what the little characters are inside, because you sometimes use a 1 for an L or whatever. But great scene, 2018, and every time I go down to the Fresh Start Center, where all the criminals are. Where I'm going in there to teach and to train and to encourage, I type in with great scene 2018.
Okay. All right.
And I have that on just every password I have, on the one going to the bank, not the same one, they're all different.
Yeah.
Because they're all projecting, and sometimes I don't always remember them, so I have to go back and look them up. But
yeah, there's too many passwords to remember them all. And you don't want to have them all the same. But there's little things like that you can introduce into your day that are reminders to try to stay positive, because we are going to think negative thoughts from time to time. That's just how we are. And to think that you're never ever going to think a negative thought is ridiculous. It's not going to happen. And so it's to learn, all right, I'm in this mood right now, I'm feeling this right now, so what can I do to cheer myself up? What can I tell myself? How can I change my thinking? But it takes work, and those are the people who follow me know that I compare mental fitness to losing weight all the time, because you think about, okay, if I have 100 pounds to lose, that's a lot. It took a long time for me to get there, and it's going to take me a while to get that weight off.
And it was an ounce at a time.
Right. Right. And sometimes I'm going to go backwards, and sometimes I'm going to go forward. But it takes work, it takes perseverance, and it just takes one action at a time to get there.
And it will rebuild those neural pathways, and it will change our whole attitude about life and and about people and circumstances.
And for the most part, people are good. And people want to do the right thing, and people do want to help out. And those people who aren't, there's something not going well in their life. And so if you can kind of twist things around so that you can put the focus on the fact that they're struggling. That helps to take the hurt, staying a little bit off of you.
Yeah, and just have a little compassion.
Right. So I think that's it for today. I believe we're out of time. So thanks, Mona, for helping me on this discussion, and appreciate our guests who came in. And we'll see you again next week. Same time, same place.
Sounds like a deal.
Okay. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.